previously on Gears.
We're going to talk Formula One in a couple of minutes from now. Big hello to Gary Formato. How are you, Gary?
Hey, good to be here again.
Awesome, great to have you here in the studio. Hope you're going to stick around because Daisy's doing double D's at 1:30. And apparently, what did you say? There will be very limited clothing.
Yes.
That's actually why I came down.
That's why I came in, because we were going to talk on the phone. Formula One, of course, yesterday, the Japanese Grand Prix. And, Gary, let's talk about the start, and then we'll talk about how this is going to affect everything that goes into the last 5 races. Great start yesterday by some drivers, not so great by others.
No, not at all. I mean, I think the big thing obviously was Fernando Alonso losing the car at the first corner after being clipped by Kimi Raikkonen. We watched the incident, a couple of times, and a start's always a dangerous part of any race, and just he had nowhere to go really. I mean, Raikkonen was on the outside; he couldn't go onto the grass. Similar situation to basically Grosjean and Hamilton in Spa, and Raikkonen basically kept his line, and it was the end of the day for Alonso. And I must be honest with you, I just sort of feel that the championship was more than compromised yesterday.
In a very big way. Romain Grosjean, who I must say, I like the guy. I think he's got tremendous potential, but I didn't see any difference, Gary, between that accident yesterday and the one at Spa. The only difference was he only sort of clipped and took out Mark Webber. It basically was exactly the same thing that happened at Spa, and he was lucky he didn't go across the road and take more guys out.
Well, we spoke about it before the race, and we assumed that he would have learnt his lesson by having the one race ban after Spa. He managed to go through Singapore okay, and yesterday just drove into the back of Mark Webber. He was, I think, more interested in what was happening on the outside of him with the Sauber trying to keep his position, and the speed difference obviously wasn't that great, and that's why the incident wasn't so big. But he's basically, out of 50% of the Grand Prix he does, he's crashes at the first corner. So you don't want to qualify anywhere near Romain Grosjean in a Grand Prix.
No, you don't. Let's hear from Mark Webber.
Mark, you had a lot of hard work to do after the accident at the beginning, but ultimately you salvaged something from the race.
Yeah, I haven't obviously seen what happened at the start, but the guys confirmed that it was first lap nutcase again, Grosjean. And the rest of us are trying to fight for some decent results each weekend, but he's trying to get to the third corner as fast as he can at every race. So it makes it frustrating because a few big guys probably suffered from that today, but anyway, maybe he needs another holiday.
Well, he has had that one race ban before, but what do you think the stewards should do?
Well, he needs to have a look at himself, obviously, if it was completely his fault. How many mistakes can you make? How many times can you make the same error? First lap incidents. So, it's quite embarrassing at this level for him.
What of your own race, though?
Well, then we were on a one-stop strategy, which is not exactly stimulating around here, but we got something from it. I kept pushing, I didn't give up, and finished 8 seconds behind 5th place. Considering I was in reverse at one point, reversing away from the fence, and then obviously the safety car was in before I got back onto the group, so basically we ticked all of the worst boxes again, and maybe I need to have a few whiskies and maybe get some luck that way. But anyway, I'll come back in Korea and just keep doing what I'm doing.
Thanks, Mark.
Sasha Martinengo.
Avanti, Fred! Avanti!
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time. Gears on bulls.co.za.
Those were the words of Mark Webber. Gary Formato in studio with us discussing yesterday's Japanese Grand Prix. Romain Grosjean got a drive-through penalty, Gary. But his team have come out now and said, listen, he's the one who has to look at himself. But, as you said earlier, you'd be petrified to be anywhere near him.
Yeah, and he's doing himself damage, within Formula One. He's quick, and I think that's the only reason why he still has that seat. If he wasn't as quick as he's been, I think D'Ambrosio would have filled the seat a long time ago. And, from his point of view, it's his job at the end of the day, and he wants a decent pay package for next year. And right now it just gives Lotus, if they want to keep him in the seat, all the negotiating power. So it really does affect his entire career. So he needs to sort it out. And as Mark Webber said, I think the big thing is it's embarrassing for him at this level.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. That's the way that, in Formula One, it is not looked kindly upon when you do have incidents like that. Yesterday, Sebastian Vettel, he was in a world of his own, Gary. I don't think even if the likes of Hamilton or Alonso were near him, they might have chased him for a bit, but Vettel seemed to be on another planet.
No, he was. And if you just looked at the attitude of the car as well, you could see it was extremely set up and hooked up to the track. It was easy for him yesterday, and you get those situations in motor racing when you've got the best car out there, you're a top driver. It's easier for him to probably to have won a race than some of the races where he's come third or fourth this year. They've done something to the car. They've they talk about double DRS. They're saying it isn't the case, and as to why the car's so fast, you've got to believe it's a big part of why the car's improved so much.
It was a phenomenal drive from Sebastian Vettel. His first title, Gary, 2 years ago, he won coming from behind. He won at the last race at Abu Dhabi, where Alonso should have been champion, or Webber should have been champion, and because the two of them fought together, they let Vettel go on and take it. You got to believe that Vettel, as you said earlier, is very much has an ascendancy now when it comes to the championship, even though he's only 4 points behind Fernando.
Look, it gets back to the dominance that we saw yesterday and the Grand Prix before, for that matter, and the lack of performance by Ferrari. Fernando Alonso cannot qualify that car up there. Yes, in the race yesterday it was quick within Master's hands, but there were other circumstances at play with everybody crashing the first corner and so on. I think Fernando Alonso knows it. They're going to need luck to win this championship. It's just my opinion right now. And if they don't get enough of it, they're not going to be able to fight for it. I mean, there's talk of the wind tunnel in Italy being sort of shut down. They need to upgrade it. I mean, this is not the kind of thing you want to hear from a team that's fighting for the championship.
Bit of another just a stat that you don't look too clearly. I mean, we've had multiple 3 times world champions, the likes of Jim Clark, Jackie Stewart, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna. But there's only 2 drivers up until now that have won 3 in a row: Fangio and Schumacher. There's a very good chance that Vettel could become the third.
I think the chances are all there. There's no doubt about that. And look, Sebastian Vettel is one of the great drivers. I mean, we spoke about him when he arrived in Formula 1, 18 years old, still with braces on his teeth, and put the car right up there in free practice in the BMW. I think it was in those days. So the guy's quick. Hamilton came on the scene, took a lot of the coverage. Being British and in the British media, we know how powerful it is in Formula 1. But Vettel's always been there, and to call him a great, I don't think would be wrong.
Yeah, Sebastian Vettel seems to be on the up, even though he's behind in the points score at the moment, behind Fernando Alonso. Yesterday, you got to say, it was a great podium. Felipe Massa, first time in 2 years. He's had such a difficult season. He still doesn't even know if he's going to have his job at Ferrari. But I suppose yesterday would have done a lot for his own self-confidence and also the confidence of the team to get that second position. He drove a great race.
Oh, he did, and I was very happy to see him up there. And confidence is everything in any sport. I think it is. It's really a lot of it's up in the head, and he needed a good result, and he got it yesterday. By hook or by crook, yes, people fell off in front of him and so forth, but that feeling of being on the podium, let's hope that it ignites something in him again. He is a quick driver, and he's come under a lot of pressure. I mean, you're comparing him to one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world, and it would be like having a person making R1 million in a company and then somebody else making 970,000 rand and saying, well, the figures are no good, you're out here, you're being fired, basically. I mean, there's nothing in it, really. At this level, so I think he's taking a lot of harsh criticism.
He has, but you got to say, besides qualifying, where he seemed to have had a problem with a set of Pirelli tires that he had Alonso's number basically the whole weekend. He was very, very quick.
Well, that's the whole thing, and I don't think it's easy to even match Fernando Alonso. And here he was right up there, a couple of tenths here or there. And the big question you've got to ask yourself is now, when they bring somebody else in, if they do, a Hulkenberg or whoever it is that they bring there, are they going to be any quicker than Felipe Massa? You've got somebody that knows the team well, works well with the team, been there virtually all of his career. It would make sense. And also, he's very happy to back Fernando Alonso up, so it would make sense to keep Felipe Massa. No.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't see them changing that as well. A guy yesterday who I think the whole world was just elated for. I got goosebumps watching the crowd celebrating just the joy and the brilliance of a Japanese driver, first time ever on the podium in a Japanese Grand Prix, and what a drive it was. Kamui Kobayashi, although his team says that's not going to guarantee him a seat for next year, it was a brilliant drive. The way he handled the pressure, I think Kamui Kobayashi was my star of the race.
He certainly was. Whether it's contractual negotiation that's putting the pressure on and allowing him to produce what he is right now, who knows? But it was a fantastic drive, fantastic qualifying as well to get the car up there. That was the first job that he got right in the weekend. Got through the first corner okay, and then basically hung in there with the leaders. And that was really what it's all about for Kobayashi. Looked after the tyres well, which we've seen him do on many occasions. That Saab as well has been good in that department. But it was great, as you said. The whole crowd chanting his name, doing what they did yesterday. It just shows you also how big Formula 1 is in the kind of support that it has in these countries, that have strong motor racing sort of heritage. It was just great. I mean, you can only imagine what the guy must feel like.
It was just amazing. He was on the podium. He saw the champagne. He hadn't even got his trophy. He wanted to spray the champagne. It was just a wonderful atmosphere. He is a very, very quick driver, maybe a little bit erratic, but I really would hope that someone, if it's not Sauber, that someone keeps him in F1.
He's a decent talent, and he can overtake. He can race hard as well. But other people make mistakes. Perez made a mistake yesterday, but Kobayashi is an exciting driver. And I think unfortunately these days in Formula One, it's got a lot to do with what sponsors come from, what country, who's looking for exposure, and perhaps they need to be more aggressive in working the Japanese market for Kobayashi's sake.
Yeah, I'm glad you say sponsors, because Hugo Chavez has just won the Venezuelan general election again, and Pastor Maldonado must be delighted.
Well, when I heard that this morning, I thought, well, there we go. Pastor's got to drive in Formula One next year, and that's what the deal is. I mean, PDVSA is backed Maldonado all the way through his career.
Yeah.
Of course, in F1 to the tune of, we believe, we've heard rumors from $30 to $60 million a year, wherever it may be. It's still a lot of money, and it's an important part of the business, unfortunately.
Looking now at the championship, we've got 5 races left. It basically is a sprint. Alonso's called it a mini championship. He's come out philosophically saying, well, he just needs to score one more point than all of the other drivers. But in my opinion, that's slightly defeatist. Although I think the problem is he doesn't really have the package underneath him. But do you think this is Alonso versus Vettel? Can we discount the likes of Hamilton, Raikkonen out of this now?
I don't think so. I think you've got to give Hamilton a chance, although it hasn't been that good for him. It's one DNF by Vettel, it's a DNF by Alonso, which we saw yesterday, that could change the picture. But you would suggest, you mentioned yesterday, we've got our own chase like they have in NASCAR. It is only about probably those 3 drivers right now. Obviously Vettel, Alonso, Hamilton in that order. As to how it's going to play out, we don't know, but that is the fight.
The one thing I was checking up on Lotus, because they didn't have a great race yesterday, but Raikkonen was still in the points. He's 3rd, and they've got a major update coming to this weekend's Korean Grand Prix. They haven't won a race as yet. They've been close a couple of times, but the consistency of Kimi has put him 3rd in the championship.
Well, that's a good thing, and they finished races, which is important. Reliability is key, a key factor in any championship. In fact, it's what you've got to do to score points. Of course, is finish races, but they do need some more speed. And Kimi's been complaining about it. He's been actually quite upfront about it, saying, well, the team just needs to give me a better car. So, if they can provide him with the goods, yes, it's going to certainly help his championship fight. But I think they've got a long way to go to get anywhere near sort of the pace of the Red Bull and the McLaren to that extent. I don't think it's as bad as it was yesterday.
Yeah, I think McLaren just had an off weekend. Also, the fact that Button had to drop down 5 places wasn't going to help him on a track that's notoriously difficult to overtake.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Jenson Button, just speaking about him, he actually had a fantastic race, getting through, managed to keep out of trouble at the first corner after that penalty they received, and really got on with the race. Finished right behind Kobayashi. The car was quick during the end. So, I think all things being equal, had he not had that penalty, he certainly would have been on for a strong podium finish.
He would have. So this weekend, of course, the Korean Grand Prix. Gary and I will talk about it at length this coming Friday. But can you believe, who's going to be at the Korean Grand Prix, Daisy?
I do remember you say Gangnam Style.
The Gangnam Style. Man, if you watched the cricket yesterday, you would have seen Chris Gayle doing the Gangnam Style. Did you watch Novak Djokovic in China?
No, I didn't see
him. He won
him.
the Chinese. They got on the court. He had all these kids behind him. They were doing the freaking dance. Well, you know what? F1 should never be left behind. So if you're watching on the visual stream, this is the Formula One style version Korean Grand Prix Gangnam Style. Check this out.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
Yeah. That is Formula One Korea this weekend, the 12th to the 14th of October. And Gary, got to say, from looking at that, at least it seems they got things together for this year's Korean Grand Prix.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, they've had a couple of teething problems the first 2 years. Great track, and certainly can throw up a good race for us. So we'd like to see the people in the grandstands. That was pretty important, and just I think make it enjoyable for everybody. Just what F1 is about. Big.
You'll make it huge. Gary, thanks, my friend. We'll speak to you on Friday.
Thanks a lot.
At the next intersection, turn on Gears with Sasha Martinengo. Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.